I was going to start this whole thing with being edge and being people, a person out there who's like, oh my god, man, mass saturation of superhero movies. But I'm not. I thoroughly enjoy the whole superhero genre. It's, to me, a really great way of turning off, ignoring the outside world, watching the little guy maybe get up one on the big man, and, yeah, turning off. So Project Power by Netflix landed a couple of days ago with a rather large budget of 86+ million. That's not including advertising, and that's quite a big thing. But I mean, you've got big names. You've got Jamie Foxx, you've got Joseph Gordon-Levitt, you've got a new actress called at least I say new, but I haven't seen her before, called Dominic Fishman. She's really good in this, and these three people are the central sort of focus of the movie. It's quite a long movie. It's like 114 minutes long, quite long. A Marvel movie doesn't feel that long because it's light. A lot of things are thrown in to make things lighter. Even Infinity War and Endgame had a lot of light, very, very funny, humorous moments in it. This movie doesn't really. I think it suffers quite badly because of that. And when I say it doesn't really, the first half doesn't really. The movie has some serious tonal issues with it. It shifts from being a very serious cop and robber almost movie to being a little bit more tongue-in-cheek and funny every now and again in the second half, and that sort of threw me a little bit. The acting, as I mentioned, is superb in this. I'll give you a quick breakdown on what the story is. You've got Jamie Foxx, who plays Art, who is the Major. He's an ex-soldier of the US military who was experimented on, and he knows what powers he has. They experimented on these people, and they generated a drug, which they aren't allowed to test on their own people, but they are testing on the general population, or at least the people who developed it are. Makes no sense at all why this is now a regular drug that you can get out. Okay, it's not really regular, it's like getting hold of E, I suppose. It's called Power. Costs about $500 a pill, and it grants the user either sudden death with no option of cake or a superpower. The thing is that you only get the superpower for 5 minutes, and you're not sure what the superpower is. They don't really go into mass detail on this, but it sounds like when you've taken the pill, if you haven't blown up, which quite a few people do, you'll get your power, okay? A little bit of spoilers, I will say what some of the characters' powers are in this. One of them you only really see at the very end, but it's a really cool one, but I won't give you guys too much as far as story is away. That's where the biggest sadness of this is, that the story is pretty lame. The screenwriting for this is not very great. It's quite sloppy in the sense that it's very, very shallow. And sometimes that's fine. I mean, I had no problem watching a shallow movie. I had a couple of pints of beer on Friday. I absolutely loved it. Loved the movie. It was loads of fun. But on reflection, you can see there's massive issues with it. It's a veneer of what the world that they hint at is. One of the reasons I like Bright, which a lot of people didn't like, is that they at least went into detail of what the universe that they were in is. Whereas in this, they don't really go into it. So it's directed by two people, Ariel Schulman and Henry Just, who I haven't really seen before. Just, I'm not sure actually how to pronounce that. South Africans would say Just, but Americans maybe say Joost, Joost. Anyway, they did quite well. The directing is very, very good in this. They have some amazing action pieces, which is why I say it's a fun movie to watch, because the action is brilliant. I have seen a couple of these scenes are quite unique that I haven't seen before. There's a brilliant opening with a whole fire guy who takes a pill and bursts into flames. There's another really great action sequence halfway through the movie where you actually see it from inside a tank, not with water, a tank like one that held was it Thor, I think, in which Avengers? I can't remember which Avengers. The first one? Or the second one? I don't know, one of the Avengers, where he falls in that container. Anyway, you actually see, the camera is inside the container and all the action is taking place on the other side, so it's quite, I haven't seen it before, it's quite cool as a matter of fact. So the quick sort of rundown of this is you've got Jamie Foxx's character who's trying to find his daughter. You've got Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who plays Henry Shaver, a cop who seems to break the law quite often. He sort of justifies buying drugs from Robin, who is literally the sidekick. I mean, it's a bit on the nose there, but still, that's Dominic Fishman. And she's great, as I mentioned. But yeah, anyway, he's a cop, and he is willing to use the drugs to beat the bad guys. And his sort of justification is, if the bad guys are taking it, we better, because we're going to get fucked up. And he's completely correct in this. Unfortunately, the moral ambiguity ends there. For starters, he's buying drugs from a teenager, which is really suspect, at the best of times, because he's literally funding her and keeping her in a line of rather dubious line of work. So yeah, they don't go into any details there. She's doing it because she's trying to keep her mother alive. So there's some very base sort of ticking boxes of character motivations in this. Again, the action is really great in this, and that was sort of compounded by the fact that the superpowers are quite cool. For example, Henry, played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt, his superpower is like really thick skin. He can get shot. He basically is bulletproof. And we've got Art, who's played by, of course, Jamie Foxx. His is a really unusual power that I've never heard of before. Well, okay, obviously we haven't heard of these powers because they're not real, but the idea behind the drug that makes them strong or gives them superpowers if it's not blowing you up, it's called power, really imaginative copywriting there. He has the power of the pistol shrimp. Yes, most people go, what? Now, I've read about this little bugger long time ago, probably at school. But a pistol shrimp is a very small little thing, and it clamps its I suppose, its pincer thing so quickly and so hard that it actually generates micro bubbles that light up in water and are about 8,000 Kelvin, which I also mentioned in the movie. So his superpower is basically superheating air. Which I suppose would be a scaled up version of what the little shrimp can do. And it's a really cool power. The visuals in this are pretty good. As I mentioned, the budget is about $86 million, so a lot of that went on CGI. A lot of it's filmed in the dark as well, which always irritates me. I don't like half movies being at night, but it is what it is, I suppose. So yeah, the action in this is a lot of fun. It's very bloody. You literally see people blow up. The consequences of each person's power they don't really go into detail with that. We start out with one sort of action scene with this guy who is, I think he has salamander superpower. He basically bursts into flames, but when he's not on fire, you can see he's scarred from when he was. So it's that kind of stuff that I would have liked a bit more detail in. They don't flesh out the world, so it's a very superficial sort of touch. They touch on hurricane, I forget which hurricane it was, that devastated America years ago, and the consequences of it, of people looking for work, and that's why they're selling drugs, etc. But they touch on these things, Hurricane Katrina, that's right. They touch on these things in such a quick way that it doesn't really mean anything. So there's not much sort of consequence in this. You don't feel that the writing again is just not so great. At the time of recording this, I think it's sitting on 61%, which is about, I'd say that's a justified score, to be honest with you. It is a fun movie to watch. It's not going to win any Oscars at all. I don't see it as creating a franchise. And yeah, I mean, to be honest, I put this in that same category as The Old Guard, which is a sort of fun movie to watch, but God, you don't want to think too much of it, and you'll forget about it. Other than the visuals, one or two set pieces which were beautifully shot, really well shot, and that's about it. The dialogue is pretty bad in this. They have this whole thing, oh God, it felt like a Care Bears episode, or, I don't know, Care Bears, or a Captain Planet, where you've got the main Art, Jamie Foxx's character saying, you don't need to take the drugs, the power's within. And he's talking to the character of Robin, and her power is rapping. And then there's this whole sequence which really stands outside the movie, of where she's like dreaming about doing a showdown with the teacher, and everyone cheers her, and then she sort of wakes up, as a dream. It was cringeworthy, to be completely honest with you. I mean, she's a good rapper, and the song at the very end of the movie, she sings in co with another person. I forget the other person's name, sorry. But she's, like I say, she's great. But the writing in this, really not so great at all. It's kind of like being offered, I don't know, 61% is not a bad thing. It's kind of like ordering bolognese, and the bolognese arrives, but there's no spaghetti. It's still decent, but you're really missing the main thing that you want in this, and that main thing that you want in this is a little bit of backstory, a little bit of world building, and a lot of better dialogue. But yeah, like I say, not a bad, terrible movie, worth a watch, and the performances are pretty good. Catch you guys later. I don't mind superhero movies. Maybe I'll watch one now.